My name is Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle. Shitta-Bey. Good morning.
Today, Monday, the 20th of January, 2025, we have Nicholas who joins us live to take a look at some trending national stories. And then you have a chance to also join in the conversation as well, too. And you have a space of 1 minute to pass comments and react to any of these stories as they affect you or as it comes to you. Feel absolutely free to join and of course, react to some of these to be discussed, stories. 0807 777-9927. That's the number to call. You can also leave us your comments via WhatsApp as well too. 0807 777-9927. Nicholas joins us live. Good morning to you, Nicholas.
Good morning.
How was the weekend for you?
Well, loaded.
Loaded.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
I like that. There's a song titled Loaded.
Yeah.
Savage Ride.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you listen to
Okay.
all through the weekend.
I know.
Maybe.
It had more to do with my schedule.
But it's all good. It's good to see you this week.
Thank you.
Let's start our conversation. Don't forget as well.
We are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. It's on Facebook at FlowFMNG and on YouTube at FlowFM927. You can get on either of these platforms and get in on the live action happening in the studio right now. Let's dive into the conversation that we have this morning. Now, Nigeria has been accepted as a partner country in the BRICS bloc, which consists of developing countries and economies, rather. What specific economic benefit can Nigeria expect from its partnership with BRICS? And how will Nigeria's membership in BRICS impact its global influence and diplomatic relationships, particularly with Western countries?
Well, first and foremost, let me first say that that tag, they call it a partnership. That's a partnering nation. I'm not sure it's the same thing as being a member of BRICS. So it's like they have a kind of that is, they have agreed to work in the areas of trading and things like that. So, but I need to see the specifics of that arrangement before one can decisively say that all the benefits that comes to every BRIC membership, accrues to Nigeria too. But in the long run, I think it's equally good for us too, diplomatically and economically, because it's like expanding your scope of options where you can trade, where you can do business. Don't forget that in terms of trade, India is about the only country, one of the very few countries where we have what you call the balance of trade. 50-50. We export to them and they export to us on 50-50 basis. Nobody's cheating the other. But in most cases where you see Nigeria doing a lot of imports, from some of these countries, there is always a trade deficit where they are on, they export more and we export little, and that is none of their fault. It's not their fault. It is us. It's our economy that is not export oriented as it should be. So by and large, it's like opening a lot of options, both diplomatically and economically for Nigeria. But let me go back to that partnership, arrangement that I spoke to. Don't forget that earlier there was this a bit of a snafu, between the United States of America and BRICS, threatening any country that decides to use its currency with 100% tariff. So that may well explain for that option that Nigeria went for. You understand, especially with Trump coming on board. So everybody you have to hedge your bet. You understand, you have to be very careful about the new man, the new foreign policy that is going to be coming from America. It's going to be, trade-wise, it's going to be aggressive. I can assure you of that. So, Nigeria did the right thing by trying to seek options elsewhere to look at how they can expand the scope of the economy, to see where they can get, benefits, that can help them grow their economy too, and where we can export some of our things too. So by and large, I think it's a very good move. Really, it is.
Right. If you look at that, it's not just Nigeria that is there. In Africa, Uganda is also a member state, and then a member of that, BRICS, and then you have Kazakhstan as well too. If you look at these two economies, how has Nigeria studied the Ugandan economy and the Kazakhstani economy to see, okay, it is good enough for us to be a member.
Considering the fact that you need to understand that BRICS emerged as a counterpoise to the group of the G7, the group of 7 most industrialized countries. So usually the conditions they bring are usually very, very tough. You understand?
Which is it BRICS or?
The G7.
G7. Okay.
This G7. The agreement, that is the conditions for entering a partnership with them are usually tougher, than what most developing countries, can live with. I'll give a very good example. Sometimes I think about 2000, was it 2005? Yeah, there about that period. I was part of this NESC, this National Economic Summit Group Agriculture Committee. Because there is an agriculture committee within NESC. And we were part of that agricultural committee. And one of the issues we trashed out extensively was this issue of EPA, that is Economic Partnership Agreement. The European countries were trying to open an agreement with Africa, the Oceania, and that is reciprocity, that we open our market just as they open theirs. But the problem is, if we open our market as much as they want us to open it, their goods, which are in terms of economic of scale, is far better. They have the economics of scale in their production. They produce cheaper, so they can flood our market and kill our industry. So that is the kind of thing that you are not going to see in BRICS. You understand? You see, you have, yes, they are developed countries, but at least we can still measure up. So that is why you see countries like Uganda, Kazakhstan, and the rest of them flooding towards our place, because there is a bit of a more liberal economic terms that can allow for Nigeria to thrive, that can allow for an equal partnership way of doing things. So, and by and large, like I said, yeah, I think it's a very good move for Nigeria and a lot of countries, African countries, that decide to take up that challenge.
Okay, well, let's move away from that, hoping that, we benefit a lot from, this partnership. Let's move into this conversation about the notorious bandit kingpin, Bello Turji. I see your face. I see your expression. It's it's a lot, right? Well, what specific strategies were the Nigerian troops employing to dislodge Bello Turji's camps? And now we can see that it has been effective, but what's the outcome, the general outcome for all of this?
The thing is that you see, there is something that I think is a little bit outdated in the way we handle this kind of thing. The Nigerian army, the mentality is containment. What you call containment. You contain. If you have, like in an area, what they do is they do an analysis. Okay, there is no way we can just go and contain, make sure it doesn't spread further. That is what they are doing. That is you dislodge them, they move into this area, you dislodge them, so it is not clinical enough. You don't have what you call surgical strikes, the kind that cripples entirely an operation of an insurgent or your enemy. So I read the updates on Zagazola Makama, that counter-terror, I read up his his reports, about the man panicking and things like that. From what the man said, it tells me a lot of stories. That is that if Turji from nowhere could have several camps, could colonize certain areas, it tells you of massive resources. Where are the resources coming from? That is, I always go back to that question that, look, before you can have insurgency, you understand, there must be, an overt, that is a covert and overt, resource mobilization towards that effort before you can have an effective insurgency. It's not what you just wake up and dream up in a day. You understand? Then, of course, the kind of resources, personnel resources he has at his disposal, military, it doesn't come cheap, it doesn't come easy. So how were they able to amass all these things and nobody knows, and it's now a case of we now have to deploy both aerial, ground, and all manners of, arsenal to take him out, So I don't know how long this is going to last. And of course, we heard about, that the army had to destroy an entire primary school or something like that where they kept, where he kept his stores, where he kept his arsenal and food and things like that. You see, look at the collateral damage. We are talking of infrastructure being destroyed along with insurgents. So it's as much as, it is salutary that they are able to get that kind of, advantage. One is a little bit worried at the cost we are incurring in having to dislodge a Turji.
Well, let me ask you, how many more of Turjis do we have in the likes of Turji do we have in Zamfara State? Because over and over again, you hear different, leaders of, groups, bandit groups here and there. Was how many more of their likes?
In fact, even that report says it, that he was even calling for assistance from other bandit leaders. So more or less, a banditry is like a franchise. You set up your camp, you take a franchise from either ISWAP or Boko Haram, and you share intelligence, you share resources and things like that. So it's more like a franchise to them. So, and that was what I said, that it's part of what I've been saying, that, look, there must be a definite nerve that supplies all this, all these insurgents, pockets of insurgents. So is there no way we can do a precise strike at that thing so that it cripples them entirely? Because all we are doing now is just taking out the symptoms, leaving out the real problem, that is the real cause of the problem. So that is just my concern about things like this. As much as it makes me happy, you understand? Don't forget, a few months ago, we were talking about how the Nigerian army have been up and doing in taking out insurgency, only for us to have, a resurgence of killing in Borno, 50 here, 40 there. So I mean, it's quite worrisome, really. It is, and you have all these things. I think it's becoming a franchise now. We have to be very careful about it. Yeah.
All right. Bodies like ISWAP and Boko Haram. Of course, you can still see that the fight is still on. The battle is still on with these terrorist groups, and of course breakout from the ISIS splintering into Africa and all of these things. How much of collaborations do we need right now to face ISWAP and Boko Haram, which is a war that has been ravaging the country for a very long time now, and then we have banditry that is on the high.
We need all the collaborations we can get, but unfortunately, with this breakage, between within the ECOWAS, you don't have the Sahel bloc against the Western bloc, and our relationship with our immediate neighbor Niger is not the best,
at the moment.
Right now, yeah.
And all those things rubs off on the kind of collaboration you have in the area of security, exchange of intelligence, and things like that. Then of course we equally have to. There is one other aspect that we have not explored. Until when you look at Liberia and Sierra Leone, until globally there was this case, the case was made for criminalizing diamond from that country, that come out illegally, until they made a case, a global case of blood diamonds. That war did not end. So my thinking, is that, and I strongly believe that is where, the problem lies. There is a need to criminalize all the resources that may come from these areas where you have this banditry. And I'll give you a very good example. If you recall, in 2003, this lady, what's the name again? Najatu came on air and said something about what you call the Nigerian gold. When you go to Dubai, there is a market where they sell Nigerian gold that is big. You understand? That is where these are illegal gold that leave this country on daily basis. You understand? Then apart from that, there was something she equally said about that. Do you know that the Chinese this container they bring into the country, that they load sand, just what you think is sand from all those mining sites, they take it to China and they sift through the sand to take minerals and use it in their country. That on daily basis you have the sand leaving Nigeria. You understand? So you see, unless we have a way, unless Nigeria pools resources, collaborates with other West African countries to create that same kind of awareness they created on this blood diamonds thing, we might not solve this problem overnight. This is my thinking.
I have to ask this. What concerns arise from the military's offensive against Baloturgi, especially since you said he's even asking other bandit leaders for help? Should Nigerians be worried? Should people living in Zamfara, how worried?
No, I think they should be happy, but that happiness is going to be temporary from the way I see it. Because you see, it's always you cut off one head, another one comes up. You understand? So we've been having a lot now. Turji is just one of the latest. Nobody has said anything about the leader of Lakwerawa or whatever that name is. We don't even know. It's faceless. You understand? So that is always, you see, you kill one, another one just springs up from nowhere. And don't forget, you see, I still go back to what that report said, that he was asking assistance from other bandit leaders. You understand? So that means there are others that we don't even know yet. So, somehow it's more or less like an orchestration. I just sit back and look at this whole thing. It is too well coordinated, too organized to be by coincidence. That is always my thinking, because these are deliberate things. You don't just, it's all just does not happen by accident,
All right. Let's move on to another conversation. And this is about the Niger tanker explosion. Falana is blaming security agencies and he spoke about this when he featured on a guest on national television, and he was, while expressing deep regret over the loss of lives and destruction of properties, he lamented that the explosion could have been avoided if relevant agencies like NEMA and the Nigerian police arrived on time. Apparently, people were trying to scoop fuel from the collapsed tanker.
Well, just for you before you respond, and that is a tradition that is common with Nigerians. We've had cases like this before, series and series of them. I think you recall that one that happened in is it Lagos. So many of them have happened in Lagos, and then Nigerians haven't learned from it as well to scooping, fuel from falling tankers here and there. That's a bad tradition. That says a lot.
Let us have something clear. You see, it's a human thing. It's not peculiar to Nigerians. If you recall this California, is it the Los Angeles fire? Is it California fire?
Yes.
Yeah,
The police arrested a lot of people who were taking advantage to loot things. You understand? So it's a human nature to always self-aggrandize. Take from what doesn't belong to you. It's a natural thing that comes to the humans, except you have a very strong moral fortitude. That stops you from doing things like that. It's a human thing. So let us get that outside. I quite align with what Falana said. You understand? I don't know if you've been to Diko. I traveled, when I was stationed in Abuja, and I have to come to Ilorin very often. So one of my route has to go through Diko. That is when you're coming from, and that is from Suleja. It's around Suleja area. You get into, on your way to Mina. So that Diko junction has always been a disaster waiting to happen. And you have an overhead bridge that is not yet completed. Then you have it's a cluster of, different people. It's like a junction point where people set up business. There will always be cars are going to slow down there. So you see a lot of trafficking. You see a lot of suya, my suya, foodstuff, and the rest of them around that Diko junction. So then, of course, that is a major route for most of these petrol tankers. It's a major route, and again, like he rightly said, the predictive power of the predictive capacity of NEMA is suspect in that instance, because you see all those kind of areas, they would have done a kind of, I don't know, this is just my framing, danger analysis, kind of, that, okay, these are flashpoints where you can have disaster prone area. It doesn't have to be about flooding. It doesn't have to be about fire. It has to be where you have cluster of people, poor traffic management. Then, of course, disaster is waiting to happen by the corner. So they should have an outpost. And I recall that, part of, one of the strategies of, peace and conflict resolution was to create hubs, where you gather intelligence as to when crisis wants to strike. So I think NEMA should have that kind of a thing. All those flashpoints where you could have disaster at any moment in time. So the moment things like that happen, they mobilize quickly to go and cordon off people. But trying to stop people from scooping fuel, I think it's a very tall order. Not even the best organized government can do that. The only thing that can be done is just take that particular tanker off the highway. You understand? That means we have to work on our infrastructure. Moving fuel through through the rail instead of through the rail, or through the, of course, pipeline is no longer feasible because you have all this banditry thing. So it's through the rail. So you have to grow the railway infrastructure so that you take it as an alternative. So instead of moving it through tanker that can cool us at any point in time, and in any case, most of these tankers, those tanker drivers, even at the short time, you can even try re-educating the tanker people. Most of them, they sleep on the way. That is why you have most of these. They walk overnight. In the middle of the night, you see them traveling. So by the time they are so exhausted after being stoned on different kind of substances, so there are a lot of things that goes into, that causing that. A lot of things goes into causing that, catastrophe, and it's quite sad, really.
I know that a few states, probably banned, the use of trailer on some routes, and you see that the road safety is also there. Federal road safety call. What are their key responsibilities? Is it that they don't have a strong hold on these tanker drivers, because it does look like we don't know maybe how much of the sensitization, FIRS, I beg your pardon, Federal Road Safety Corps gives to these tanker drivers. They appear to be above the law.
Yeah, exactly. You see, I think it has to start with the tanker owners. There should be a very, very strong hold on them. You've never seen an irate tanker driver before. That is when he's angry. He can use that tanker to block a highway and cause major traffic and doesn't give a damn. You see, these are some kind of fatalistic kind individuals. They don't give a damn as to what happens. So it tells you that the number one problem there is recruitment. How do you recruit people to drive tankers? Who are the quality of human beings you recruit to drive your tanker? So if you have an instance like that, what I think, instead of just, after the disaster, you do a postmortem like you do in a plane. When the plane crashes, you do that kind of postmortem. So, okay, what is the qualification of this? How well did you train him? So you take responsibility as a tanker owner if you have somebody that is subpar driving, so until you have something like that, you understand, this kind of disaster will just be happening.
And even when things like that happen, there are no repercussions.
There are no repercussions whatsoever.
No consequences.
The consequences are not there. So those are some of the reasons why you have it happening over and over and over again.
Well, I'm still going to ask you, still on the road safety core. If you look at the condition of some of these tankers, you see that some of them are not even in good condition. They are not properly maintained and all. And then the level of speed. I recall that the road safety says there is a limit that you can go, you can run, but you see some of these tanker drivers speeding and actually, and then you from a few distance away, you see that there is a road safety, spot there, but you still see them drive so hard. Yeah. Does it say a lot to the owners of these tanker drivers that are they're mighty or the high powerful within the society? That we've not been able to clamp down on this tanker drivers.
It's still part of the same problem we're talking about. Then mostly, if you notice, most of these incidents we talk about is not about speeding, because the moment a tanker is loaded, there is no way he can speed because it's so heavy.
And what causes it to spill its contents?
Yeah, because you see, that is how professional is that driver in the first instance. That his state of mind at that time. Because you see, we are talking of the tanker that has liquid, and liquid is it's always moving. You understand? So, if you are not a deft driver, you won't know how to compensate. When it shifts this side, whether to compensate so that there can be a balance of weight. So now that thing takes calculation. It takes that is your calculation must be top notch. Now we are not talking of a driver who drives for 24 hours non-stop and not sleeping, or maybe he still has a little bit of rest. He sleeps, in an uncomfortable place. Then he's stoned on certain substances. When you go to these people, they terribly abuse drugs. You understand? That is, in fact, if you really want to look at areas, population where they abuse drugs thoroughly. It is with the tanker drivers. They sniff all manners of things. Gunpowder, what's it called? Is it alabokun?
And nobody checks these things.
Who checks them? In fact, when you stop them, how equipped are even the Federal Road Safety and even VIO and the rest of them in doing a drug test on them? Do they administer drug test on them? This blowing in a balloon, I've never seen it used in Nigeria. So these are random things that they can do, but it's not there. You understand? So you see, you see, like Falana said, you see, it's poor coordination on the part of the security agencies. It's as simple as that. Let us face it.
All right, let's move on to another story, but I just hope that Nigerians will learn. Like you mentioned, it's a human nature
80
thing.
people died. I know it's human nature, like you said, but 80
still counting.
people died.
Still counting.
My point is actually where he said self-aggrandizement, is in human nature. Looting is not just speculative.
It's not speculative. No.
We see that happen in even the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Take advantage of. Or look at the invasion of the U.S. Capitol, the Capitol invasion. Look at the way people say looting as a result of that. Look at the Black Lives Matter. You saw the aftermath of it. So that's not even where I'm going. My concern now is how much of sensitization should we give to ourselves that when a tanker spills its contents, please cordon
Leave,
off the
exactly.
environment. We've seen. I recall that of on the Lagos, what's it called? Ogbomoso Your Road. That is also another black spot. That's But again, I think they opened up another route where smaller vehicle can go through, and then the big articulated vehicles can use on their own. But again, how much of education do we need to give to ourselves? Last time one of the tanker fell, there are villages along that route, and you needed to see people come out. That says a lot about poverty in the land.
Yeah,
or lack of sensitization or education.
Yeah, you see, look, this sensitization we keep on talking about. To what extent can it? Because the earliest time I've heard of this kind of incidents was as far back as 2000. No, not even 2000. I think it was in 1997. This Jesse in Delta State, where some villagers, community people went to bust the pipeline. No, there was a bust pipeline. They didn't do it. There was a bust pipeline. Fuel was gushing out, and they went there, and there was a massive explosion. About almost 200 people died. That was the first instance I even came across things like that. Then, ever since then, there has always been that is repeat of all these things with gory pictures all over the social media, the mainstream newspaper, and a lot of talks. You understand? So, what it simply leads me to understand is what I have just said, that it's human, to always want to take what doesn't belong to you.
But this is...
No, I'm not making excuses. I'm not making excuses.
This is a dangerous one.
But that is the thing. But you see, the moment there is economic crunch, like I keep on saying here, this thing, I sound like a broken record most times when I repeat this saying that rationality ends where hunger begins.
Even when it can cause death.
That is human nature. The moment you see it, I'm going to scoop fuel, 1 gallon, go and sell it in the market, it solves one problem for you. So, you see, if we're able to take out some of those things that brings about desperation, maybe we could reduce such incidences of people rushing off to go and scoop fuel. Maybe we could. But, you see, you have to take into consideration the human nature itself. So, that is why most times, forward-looking countries, what they try to do is to put infrastructure in place to make sure that they curb that tendency in humans. When this thing happens, they move in without anything. The first thing is to bring a helicopter. Maybe you spray some kind of gas on that place so that even if there's an explosion, it doesn't have to, that you can minimize any kind of burn or, explosion or, combustion. Maybe that is the first step. A helicopter move there, spray some gas on that area so that it reduces, explosion. Then you move in, cordon off people. Then you start evacuating if necessary. So that is what they do because they know it is inhuman to do what is stupid. What is even an animal will not do. You understand? If there is a wildfire, in the forest, you see animals migrating to the opposite direction, but it's not so with humans. Especially if there is something there to gain. If there is wildfire here and an antelope is close to that place, a lion will not go there to go and get it. It will first protect itself, but it's not so with humans. So that's the dilemma we find ourselves. So that is why we need a forward-looking government, to always take care of things like this.
Well, because of our time, let's quickly move on to this and touch on this maybe within a minute or thereabout. The Association of Telephone, Cable TV and Smart Internet Subscribers of Nigeria rejected the proposed telecom hike of 30 to 60% put forward by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, while the advocacy representing over 220 million subscribers nationwide argued that the minister's statement contradicted an agreement reached with the Nigerian Communication Commission, CC.
I said it earlier, when the minister came out, I said he was trimming at the edges of honesty. That is the diplomatic way of saying he came out to lie to Nigerians. You understand? Because you cannot say people came to you when, the normal thing is if I want to sell a product, it is the consumers that I will go to. So going to the minister tells you that there's a lot of things they are hiding. Now they have come out now, to say no. You cannot just willy-nilly say you are going to increase to 60% or 30 to 60%. Without definite, no. We are supposed to have a tripartite agreement. The GSM providers, the government, and we, the customer. And the customer is king. The customer is supposed to be the king. You understand? But in this instance, they are saying no, that they and the regulator are the king. So what kind of market you say? And we say we are doing a market economy. So it doesn't even make sense. So that is to tell you that there is a kind of incongruity in that announcement that was made earlier that we pointed out here on this platform. You know?
Nicholas, because of time, we need to just arrest it for this morning. Sure to pick it up tomorrow, God willing, 8 to 8:30 again. We thank you for your time this morning. Because it says a lot that, we've begun on a very good note. So the rest of the week is going to look like that and even much better. Yeah. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you the view expressed is not in any way the position of Flow FM, but solely as expressed by Nicholas Unwaru Noye. Thank you for joining us. We're back tomorrow, 8 to 8:30. My name is Adedayo Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
Here to light up the city, 92.